Hey church, here's video 2 in this series on what it means to make disciples of the nations. We're fleshing out our understanding of what a disciple is and hoping to be really practical about actually making disciples, giving you some really practical, helpful advice. Perhaps at the beginning it may be helpful just to remind ourselves what a disciple is. So there's a book that I've used quite often over the years in premarital counseling, and it's called The 5 Love Languages. There are a few versions of it. And in this book, it expresses different ways that people talk love. How do they value love? And so for some people, it's time. For other people, it's gifts. For some people, it's acts of service. For others, it's physical affection. For some, it's words of affirmation. Different people like to be loved in different ways. And I guess at its heart, the love language that God speaks is the language of obedience. This is why when Jesus says in Matthew 28 to go and make disciples of the nations, he says, go and make disciples of the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded. The word for disciple comes from the same root word as discipline. A runner, an athlete, disciplines their bodies. They focus their attention and energy doing various exercises, making themselves fitter and faster and more agile so that they can do their sport well. And so it is with us. A disciple is one who is disciplined in the ways of Christ. It's someone whose life is molded and shaped by Jesus. It's somebody who is looking more and more like Jesus day by day as Jesus transforms them, as Jesus takes their character and all the little rubbish, horrible little bits, the anger, the frustration, the disappointments, all of those things that aggravate us, they get molded and shaped and smoothed off. And the areas where they're a little dense, Jesus panel beats those out and puts into them things like love and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness and self-control. It's not just that we stop doing the bad stuff, but being a disciple of Jesus is also us beginning to do the good stuff. It's not just that we stop being nasty, but it's that we start speaking words of affirmation. It's not just that we stop being horrible to people who are poor, but that we start blessing the people who are poor. This is what it is. There was a Jewish rabbinical saying that you would say to somebody, may you be covered in the dust of your rabbi. Rob Bell did a video on this, but the basic idea was this, that you would follow so closely behind your rabbi that you would literally be covered in the dust that came off as they walked their way around the dusty streets of Jerusalem and Israel. My prayer is that we would begin to understand this, that we can't call ourselves disciples of Jesus if we're not following Jesus. There's a massive struggle for this in the life of the modern church. The church often makes converts. We sometimes make Christians, but it's rare that the church gets it right at actually making disciples. There are so many instructions that are so clear in the Bible, but people just take their pick and choice of what they want to do. So we're told to tithe 10% of our income, but we justify all sorts of reasons why we don't have to do that. We're told to go and be witnesses about Jesus, and we have all sorts of reasons why we don't have to tell our friends about Jesus. We're told to care for the poor and the widow and the orphan, and yet there are 100 reasons we have as to why we don't have to do that. We're told to house the homeless and feed the hungry. We're told to bring God's kingdom here on earth, and yet we've really struggled to do this. We find it hard to be obedient. And so I guess at its heart, a disciple is one who walks with Jesus. It's not something one just becomes overnight, but it's a long journey. It's an apprenticeship. I spend quite a bit of time when I can in my workshop. I have a bunch of power tools that I've learned to use over the years, and somehow by God's grace I have the ability to take a lump of wood and turn it into something valuable and beautiful and useful. And that is what Jesus wants to do with us. Now, a carpenter doesn't learn their trade overnight. I have spent countless hours watching other people, a lot of the time YouTube videos, sometimes friends or family members who I've asked for advice. It's taken me many years to become as good as I am, and I'm still learning, making mistakes and learning to be better and better. And so it is with us following Jesus, that we are learning from the Master. We're learning from the greatest lover the world has ever seen. We're going to learn from him what it is to love the poor, what it is to love the unlovable, what it is to share the good news with those who are lost. That's really what a disciple is. It's a person who is walking closely with Jesus and whose life has been molded and shaped by him. And so my prayer for you today is that you would spend time in the Word, that you would spend time prayerfully listening to the Spirit as He speaks truth into your life, as He convicts you of sin. And my prayer is that you would pray to Jesus, that He, by the power of the Spirit, would transform you day by day into Jesus' likeness, that you would look more and more like Jesus. That's what disciples are. Part of our disciple making is to pass that on to others, to nurture other people up so that they would look more like Jesus too. And so the next videos are going to express some of the practicalities about how we may go about doing that. Have a great day. Bless you. Bye.